Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Jared Brandon Wong Pickups.
I'm Zack Oswald.
Just Zack Oswald.
Yeah, I don't have a business.
Oswald Engineering.
Yeah,
Oswald
hey, it's me,
Engineering.
Todd Novak. Glad you are with us. We are happy to be here. We are super stoked. We love doing this.
Woo!
And we hope that you love listening to it. And we also have somebody special on the line.
Yes, Jake Serek from Serek Basses in Chicago.
All right.
Jake, I want to start this out by saying I so much appreciate your patience. Ladies and gentlemen, we have tried to have him on. I think this is the third time. We were experiencing an awful lot of strange things happening at the very beginning of, or the very end of November, I think.
Yeah.
And
It was a transitional.
Yeah, it was a transitional stage. We were relocating our place, and we were just having a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And Jake has been more than patient, very accommodating, super nice gent, and we greatly appreciate it because he's got some really rad basses, no lie here. And so we're really excited to talk to him. And it's nice to get some bass love every now and again.
Yeah.
And we'd like to get some more. So
Gotta have the bottom
give us a
end.
shout, bass player,
Yep.
maker guys. All righty. So we got a couple things that we want to deal with real quick. We want to give a big shout out to Rode Microphones for sponsoring us. This is massive for us. We have all new equipment as a result of our relationship with them. And any chicken scratch you hear on these lines today is coming from, we think it's this old building that we're trying to sort out. You may have heard that in a couple of past podcasts. I apologize. I'm working on it. I'm trying to make it better. But these mics are
They're insanely great.
man, these are top notch. These are Procaster microphones, and they gave us the whole setup and have been really great to work with. So thank you so much, Rode. Also make killer live, stage mics and all kinds of other microphone stuff. They don't just do, podcast recording stuff and studio recording stuff. They make all kinds of real good stuff. So check them out, Rode Microphones. We also want to give a real quick shout out to Grado Headphones. Thanks, Grado. What up?
Grado.
I can hear you.
Yes. I also want to bring to attention very quickly Reverb.com, good friends of ours, sponsoring our show. We love them. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Reverb.
I want to bring to your attention one of my favorite things that they have on their site. Actually, it should be everybody's favorite because this is called Price Drops. Now, who doesn't like a price drop? I like a price drop. And there are currently 52,297 listings
What?
under price drop.
Sure.
Holy moly.
Yeah, so before you go on and try to find anything or buy anything, maybe check Price Drop first.
Right.
They have fantastic stuff on there. It's right on the off of the main homepage. I'm just kind of scrolling through right now. There's a Vox Berkeley 2 head. There's a Gibson Memphis E30 335 at a sick price. Goodness sakes.
Some people,
Tons of pedals. Everything you
Yeah.
can find on there. It's like a site in itself. It's kind of weird. If you just took just price listings, you could spend weeks looking at that. So
Months,
maybe a year if you've got a really slow connection. Right. Anyway, so check out Reverb.com and the price drop section, and your life will be better. Mm-hmm. Likely. I can't promise that, but I'm pretty sure.
Well, New
Anyways.
Gear Day is the best anyways, isn't it?
Who's a what?
New Gear Day is the best anyways.
New Gear Day is the best day any day.
That's
yes. Actually, there's two best new things about New Gear Day. Is that one, when you find what you're looking for, actually there's three. Then you pull the trigger. That's the second. And then
Actually, there's 4.
then you wait, and then it arrives at your door. And that's
Right.
that's just the best. It's like Christmas
I think
every time.
The chase is the funnest part for me, just finding what you're looking for.
I can't disagree with that at all.
yes.
let's get on with some super rad stuff called What's in Our Guitar World This Week. There's a lot of dudes in this room. Jake, we're going to get to you in just a second, but let's hit Tony first because he looks sad.
No, actually, it's been a good week. I think last time we talked about a guitar that I picked up to replace one that I sold. So again, the sickness filters in. It should be here in the next day or two. Jared just gave me some pickups that are going to go into that particular guitar, so that's a good thing. But aside from that, I'm doing some pretty cool projects. I actually posted something on my Instagram page today to kind of show some work in progress. There's a company in Indiana called TEO Guitars. And Terry over there, I've been doing pickguards for his, and they're octave 12-string based on a Vox Mando guitar from the 60s. So it's kind of like they call it the painter's palette body. It's kind of a funky thing, but he needed one that needed a full face guard. We usually do a smaller guard, and I guess somebody wanted one like he had done for Buddy Miller, who's kind of a very good instrumentalist, and
anybody named Buddy is usually really good
Buddy,
at something.
Yeah, you gotta be. But he was an early adopter of this, and the cool thing about this is it allows a guitar player to play normal chords and things.
I'm listening.
But it sounds like a mandolin.
What? That's kind of neat.
Because it's an octave 12. So if you took a 12-string guitar, capoed it at the 12th fret,
Right.
That's kind of the sound that you would have.
Yeah.
It seems to be that only really the hugest guy in the band plays the bandolin too. I don't know why that is.
I think it's a prereq. Well, you have to do that. So those projects like that take some extra time. But I actually enjoy doing it because it's not, just another Strat guard or Tele guard or whatever. It's something that, you just have to sit there and think about for a little bit. And that I enjoy doing that. So
yeah, exercise.
So check
your
out
brain,
the Instagram posting on there. It looks pretty cool.
Will do. Zach, what's up?
So a while back, I picked up.
Oh wait, hold on. I think we got to just give Zach a little bit. So Zach, who the crap are you?
I am a friend of Jared Brannon over here. I help him out from time to time, and you invited me over today.
Like with arithmetic or what?
Well, if I need it.
Right.
He may help him put on his socks.
Actually, I have him doing a lot of work in the shop, and he's a very quick learner, and he likes doing it. So
Yeah, it's good fun.
he's a really good dude to have around.
I heard you're a good guitar player.
That's
Can
debatable.
you confirm or deny that? Debatable.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
He's good.
All right. Is he going to adopt you or something? What is
I
going
think so.
on?
I don't know.
I think so.
I'd have to fight his parents.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. Okay. So what's going on here with this week? That is about.
Anyways, I picked up one of those Epiphone SL guitars.
Aha. Yes.
They're really cheap, They're kind of cool looking. I think they're kind of retro, sort of melody maker style. And,
Airline-ish.
Yeah, and I wanted to do something a little bit different with it just because...
How about a pick guard?
Yeah, pick guard would be nice. I'll talk to you about that. But yeah, I mean, it's a cool guitar, but, the hardware is kind of lacking and the electronics and stuff. And I got a lot of guitars, so I wanted something that was a little bit different. And so I finally put some lipstick pickups in. I had Jared make me
that's
some
cool.
lipstick.
Oh, yeah.
And,
You got the first 2 lipsticks I've ever made.
Yeah, I got the prototypes.
Nice.
But yeah, they're really cool looking, and it's a great guitar for $99. I was impressed.
The very first thing, like if anybody is buying one of these, just put some pickups in it.
And tuners. Tuners are important
put some
as well.
pickups in it. Yeah, I mean you could duct tape your tuners so they don't move, but just put some pickups in it because that was the one thing I just got handed 2 of those to kind of set up because they weren't set up very well.
Yeah, they need that too.
Golly sakes, I was just like, ooh, these need pickups. Everything else, I mean, I get it. It's a $99 guitar. It's
Right.
cool. Set neck, blah blah blah. Wait,
No, they're
not
bolt-on.
a bolt-on. Sorry, the paint, but it's full paint on everything, which is cool.
It's all glossy. Yeah, I like the seafoam green. That's like my favorite solid color for a guitar.
Yeah. I mean, whatever.
How's the setup on it? Because I've heard a lot of things that
Todd don't like
the bridges are really you can't get them down low enough.
Oh no, I got mine down too low. I mean,
okay.
Yeah, I mean they're cheap. It's a cheap bridge. It's really soft. So eventually I might change that out. But really, the only thing I had to complain about was the fret ends were a little sharp.
I
Cheese
spent a lot of
graters.
time on the fret ends on the ones that I got.
But I've had that issue with
And
some
there were
lower
some
end.
seriously high
for
frets too.
$100 in today's
Yeah.
market. I mean, come on.
It's a great guitar to work on. So one of our faithful followers sounds terrible. I shouldn't say that. It's not.
Listeners.
It's not listeners.
Listeners.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to sound like culty or anything.
One of our friends.
Corey MacArthur brought something up on Facebook. He said, I've been watching a lot of videos on leveling and crowning frets. I've never done this before, but it seems if you take your time and use the right tools, then this task is not too difficult. I just ordered a fret rocker from StewMac to see if and where my problem frets are.
Hopefully they're not stainless steel frets.
Oh, brother. but this is a great point. And we answered with just like, okay, get a cheap guitar.
Yes.
And start practicing on that first. You
Right.
can work on doing your fret ends. You can work on recrowning. You can work. I mean, heck, you can work on refretting if you feel so inclined.
Yeah.
But it's a great way. You can do a new nut on it. So that's a great way to do that. If you get one of these guitars, you're pretty much going to have to do something about those fret ends anyway. So that's a good place to start.
That actually might be a good one to experiment with.
Yeah.
For $100.
To me, that kind of stuff is fun, though.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's a lot of
enjoy it.
fun.
I thoroughly enjoy it. It's a zen-y kind of thing. Cool. Thanks for sharing. Be quiet now. Okay. I'm just kidding. Jake, what's up?
Yes. All right. So the last couple of weeks have been tying up loose ends, getting ready for the Winter NAMM show, which will be my first time going there. And it's actually
Exciting.
appropriate that Reverb sponsored this episode because they're actually kind of sponsoring my life right now, too.
Oh, rad.
I'm going to be showing basses at the Reverb booth at Winter NAMM in a week. Very exciting. So this week has been kind of the first breath of fresh air because my basses are on their way to California. So it's the calm before the storm. And I'm finishing up a couple of customer guitars before I leave. And one of them is my very first bass 6, which I'm really excited about.
Man,
So,
bass 6s are hot right now.
Yeah, so
Wow.
every once in a while I get a customer who's got a special vision. I don't really do a lot of custom work. I try and stick within the models that I offer. But once in a while, an idea is just too good to pass up. So this guy wanted me to make a 32-inch scale bass 6 in the style of my Sacramento bass. So,
Cool.
it turned out great. It's got a Curtis Novak bass 6 pickup in the middle position, and then I wound up one of my Serek single coils for the bridge.
Are you using Curtis's Gen 1 that have the metal bass on it, or just one of his standard bass 6 pickups?
One of the standard bass 6
Okay.
pickup. Yeah.
He makes a really cool. It's basically based on the very first generation of 1961 or 62 bass
okay.
6s, and it's essentially a Strat style pickup that sits inside of a metal housing. The bass is actually it's a housing that fits in. So it's
He does everything that no one else wants to do.
Yeah.
That's why he's
true.
awesome.
Stuff.
I mean, he's
And
a
he does
great
it
dude.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I use
no
a lot
doubt.
of his Bisonics and other bass pickups too.
That's
so
a really good pickup.
gold foils, all that stuff, yeah.
Nice.
So that's where I'm at.
Well, we'll get into all of your different bass models and your whole line up of, basses and thinking and all the good stuff that has to do with your awesome brand.
Say on that bass 6, are you using like I guess the traditional baritone scale length or baritone strings, or how are you stringing that one up?
No, it's tuned up, like a 6-string guitar, just an octave, or the bass octave. So it starts with the first 4 strings are the same as a regular bass guitar.
Okay.
And then it just goes up to the B and E, but it's got it's a 32-inch scale.
Okay.
So it's like a medium scale bass. Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
You have to let us know how that comes out.
Absolutely.
We're looking at your basses right now, and it's funny because it's like so obviously Chicago.
Interesting.
Just because if anybody has looked for an Airbnb in Chicago, that's the shot.
Yeah, you're talking about my apartment and everything?
with a front room 3-piece window set.
3 window.
window.
Bay.
That was a nice place we stayed at, though.
Yeah. Anyways, so let's see. Well, since you guys all asked what I've been doing.
What about Jared?
Oh, all right. Let's go, Jared.
Well, other than replacing a carburetor on my snowblower, I've got a handful of amplifiers and cabinets, and I have this Black Star HT60, and it's a 60. No, man. It's one of my favorite amps. I actually was messing around, unplugged the... it's a combo. It's a 112, 60-watt amp. I unplugged the... I'm not fond of that speaker that it came with, so I plugged it into a 412, and it's an old Marshall cab from like the late 70s. And it's got some newer greenbacks, the England made. And it sounds so stinking great. It makes me regret buying the combo, and I wish I would just bought a head.
Do you remember when I went?
Yeah, the combo sounded really fizzy.
Yeah.
That was my biggest problem with it.
It's a totally new amp when you just eliminate the 112-inch speaker and plug it into a 412. I mean, it's unbelievably different, and so I'm not going to get rid of the combo.
I'm going to be devil's advocate here and say just about any amp that you plug into
I was just going to say that.
That's true.
A Marshall 70s 412 with UK greenbacks.
Well, they're newer.
Oh yeah,
the
but
newer
still,
ones. Yeah, I mean, I guess you're right.
No, but it's cool that if you're happy with that.
Well, I'm not going to get rid of the amp because I like the sound. I'm just going to keep everything the way it is now.
Well, why don't you have a cabinet made just for the head?
Yeah.
I know a guy.
Get like a 212 for that. Make it
Why don't you make a 412 cabinet?
You should see this cabinet, though. It looks like, 5 different beers at 5 different times were spilled on this
It's
thing.
like rock and roll.
It does. It looks like it's been toured everywhere. It's great.
cool.
But, I guess it's kind of boring, but it's really cool when you... I don't know. It's not, but it's great when you find a sound that you weren't expecting to find.
I would echo that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. That's exciting.
Hey, Todd, what's been going on in your world this week?
Well, hang on. Well, okay, I'll tell you.
Please.
So one thing that I've been doing is playing around with this really, really cool pedal. I was taken by surprise by a pair of roguish eyes.
There he is.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. It's by Southampton Pedals, and I'm gonna get the name wrong. I can't get it straight, but it's the Ictinio preamp. It's like an EQ. Ictinio, something like that. It's ICTINEO. That's what it's called.
ICTINO.
Right. Anyways, it's got a little like a.
That was his name.
I think it's a submarine. It looks like a submarine or a blimp. This is I'm having a hard time with this. I'm not doing a very good job of this right now.
Yeah, you're really making it sound so attractive.
I'm looking at Facebook right now.
Okay, really around the room. Is it a blimp or is it a submarine?
I would call that
a blimp.
That's a dirigible.
It's a blimp.
That's a submarine, I think.
See? Oh, I'm so crazy.
It's a blimp because it's got the... Oh, no, that's...
No, it's got a thing on top. I think it's a submarine. It's like a really old, blimpy looking submarine. Anyways, that matters not. This pedal is one of those pedals that you plug in and you say, what is this going to do? And then you realize it's not what it does. It's just, holy moly, this is making my amp sound so much better. Like, it literally is like a veil of dynamics that just drops right over it. And I heard it and I said, whoa, wait a minute. And I took the 5-step back and then the 10-step back. And then I went back to the room and had my kid play it. And I was like, holy crap, this is making my guitar sound so much better. It has a whole bunch of switches that I'm not going to get into. But if you go to southamptonpedals.com, you can check it out. It's the thing that you can't pronounce with the blimp marine on it. A subma blimp. A subliminal blimp. Anyways, it's super cool. Check it out. It's essentially, it's an EQ, but way more involved than a standard EQ is, and I really dig it. It's really cool. Anyways, so Lottie Dottie, we like to
1, 2, 3, 4 on the floor.
Yes, 4 on the floor, my favorite. Jake, let us have it.
All right. So the pedal that I've had on my board for the longest is the Boss CEB3 chorus, bass chorus pedal. Chorus is probably my favorite and my most go-to effect, just for kind of like juicing up the sound a little bit, or I play a lot of chords or stuff in the high registers, so it just gives those notes a little bit of extra shimmer. I don't, it's not necessarily just like a goth Cure thing or anything like that. I don't know. I haven't really honestly tried that many different chorus pedals. This one's just always worked for what I needed it for, and it's great because it's got a separate low filter, so you can either dial out the low end or keep it in. I like to keep it in so that the chorus actually, when engaged, acts as a little bit of a boost as well. Effect blend all the way up, and then there's a rate and a depth, which I keep more or less around noon, because it can get real kind of loopy if you put the rate, super far over, but just enough to kind of give it a little thing. I'm also a big fan of Chris Squire from Yes. He's like my favorite bass player of all time.
Oh,
and
interesting.
He uses a lot of kind of subtle effects, especially playing chords and arpeggios and things like that. That's probably where that started. Next is the VT Bass DI pedal, which is a newer venture for me, but I always need some kind of overdrive, a little bit of dirt. For a long time, I was using that Boss Bass overdrive, that yellow pedal, which sounds horrible in every setting except for like pretty much the gain all the way off, and so then it's just kind of a
wow. Like there's a beautiful endorsement.
There it is.
Yeah, any amount of gain on that pedal immediately just turns into like that Muse song, like that that Muse song that everybody plays, where it's just like it's just too much. It sounds horrible when with the direct signal. It just doesn't sound good. So for whatever reason, that pedal stayed on my board for years and years and years. I finally said, screw it, I'm gonna try something else. Tech 21 VT Bass nails it. A lot of good character. The DI version of the pedal sounds great too. So if you're recording with it and you don't have a nice speaker cabinet to get that crunch, it actually does a pretty convincing job there. And there's plenty of EQ and good tone shaping on that. Then I've got an interesting pedal. You guys familiar with the Digitech Bass Synth Wah pedal?
Now we are.
Yeah. I think
It's been
I can
around
hear
for a
this.
long
I can
time.
hear the effect in my head.
Does it have a blimp on it?
It's been around for a while. It's been around for a while, and there's actually a lot of different stuff on it. Again, I only use it for one thing, but it's probably best known for like that one Daft Punk song where it's just like bow, 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 bow.
It's an auto-wah, right?
Yeah, it's got like all these weird synthy auto-wah sounds on it and everything. I don't use it for any of that stuff, but I use the sub-octave because it's one of the best tracking sub-octaves that I've ever used, and it just sounds really great. It's nice and clean. It doesn't really color the sound. It just gives you like a nice solid sub-octave. So
I think Rage Against Machine may have used that too.
You might be right. Yeah. So that pedal sits on my board all the time for when I need that. And then my most recent addition to the board is the Maxon AF9, which is an auto-wah.
Do you use those together with each other?
Not always.
Let me rephrase that. Do you use that together with each other?
Yeah, sometimes. I've tried out a lot of different bass envelope filters throughout the past several months, and so many of them get real squawky and kind of splatty, and just they have wolf notes, or the top end is too harsh. Like there's just something off about them. I like kind of like my ideal envelope sound is pretty much Jerry Garcia, like any, the old Mutron, like his tone, it's just really expressive. It's subtle. It's not too harsh. This pedal does that, and it works really well for bass. So I can get kind of like a sweeter, midier Ottawa sound. The sensitivity is really great. It's really expressive depending on how hard you play. So you can kind of like half open it up or like dig in and really let the note open up wide. And it's just got like a really nice bobble sound to it. So I've been having a lot of fun playing around with that.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say the only reason you got that pedal is it's because it's super cool looking.
It is really cool.
It's creamalicious.
I mean, 2 sliders and the what do you call those things? The little switches, the little slide switches.
Just switches.
Well,
switches.
We call them switches.
Switches. Yeah.
Anyway, people call them corn.
A selector switch? I don't know.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So cool. That sounds mighty good, dude. I like that. I wish I was more familiar with bass pedals. I know that the landscape of bass pedals is probably more like an island.
I disagree.
Is there?
I disagree. There's
maybe I'm just not aware of them.
There are a lot out there, and I find that bass players are usually more experimental than most guitar players in terms even of just basses. I mean, they'll buy very cool basses.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What about country music though?
What about it?
Do you hear a lot of
that's
bass
the end of that
effects
discussion
in country music? I mean, it's like boom, 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 boom.
Oh man, you just
Goodbye, Nashville.
Yeah.
That was Jared from Brandon Wound Pickups playing country music bass lines.
Come on.
No, I think there are some. I mean, I would agree with you that country musicians tend to be more traditional and maybe less experimental. But I'm sure, I mean, if you go down to Nashville, there's a killer music scene there.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Of course there is. Come on.
Hey, Jake, real quick question for you.
I got family down there doing it. Come on.
Jake, real quick question for you. You have you experimented with the dark glass line at all?
I've messed around with them in store. I haven't actually purchased anything, but I've actually not too long ago, Doug was at the basement at Chicago Music Exchange showing off his new amp and cabinet line. And so we got to hear a little bit of that too. I mean, he's definitely nailed the bass overdrive thing. It's kind of the thing with bass effects. It's hard to manage all those low frequencies. So that's why sometimes you do need bass specific stuff, especially when it comes to overdrives, distortions, fuzzes, things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I like everything I've heard so far from him. So
cool. I stumbled on one on accident. I didn't even know, and I got it, and it sounded amazing.
Yeah, we tried that out together.
Legit,
it's a great
killer.
set for guitar. It works really well.
So I would say to other guitar players, like if you see like a bass pedal that looks interesting, give it a shot. It might be rad. Who knows?
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned the Tech 21 stuff, because they just make some really good pedals, really useful things. I mean, I used to gig out with an acoustic, 2 of us playing acoustic guitars, and we use the Tech 21 acoustic DIs, and they're just incredible. I mean, it gives you everything you need and then some. And
I remember when you were playing with Jack Black. That was really awesome.
Yeah, you remember that?
Oh.
Remember when you were in the Beatles? That was pretty cool, man.
So, anyways, cool. Well, hey, dude, thank you for sharing that. I love this segment, and it's just, it's such a great window into a player's personality and what they're all about and the choices that they make, and it's cool. But the big reason that we have you on here is because, I mean, you make some pretty awesome basses. We ran into you at the Chicago Guitar Show put on by Alchemy Audio, and I've been telling all kinds of people, they're like, hey, who's coming on the show? I'm like, hey, we got Serek Basses on. Now, you've had the benefit of being strung along for quite a while now. So I've been mentioning you probably more than other people.
From the outside perspective, you guys run a pretty legit thing, but as soon as you
don't give it away. I really appreciate that you said that it seems like we run a really legitimate thing. because we're running a really legitimate program here. If I could say it, I'm ruining my gag here, so I'm just going to get by it.
Your name read on the thing.
Anyways, so Jake.
Yes.
The thing that caught my attention with you was that I think when I see basses, I see a lot of, Tony, you just kind of gave a nod to it. It's sort of like you either see like a P bass or you see something bunkers, like 16 pieces of wood. And
P bass, J bass. Or T40,
right? And I don't mean like bonkers is bad. In fact, Low Down Bass, who's also out in Chicago, he was at our local guitar show. He was one of our earliest guests on the show.
It was good to see him.
And that guy makes some incredible basses out of lots of different kinds of wood, and he's on the more like, whoa, check those basses out, kind of crazy end. Right. And the thing that I was drawn to when I saw yours was that they seemed more like guitars, familiar to me, but in totally new presentation. So I'm not trying to take away from your bassness, but as a guitar player, I was really drawn to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
I saw familiar brands and designs kind of all meshed together. And they look really great.
That's definitely the goal. Like when I set out to figure out what kind of aesthetic I wanted, I saw kind of two sides of the spectrum where like I could go make J basses and P bass copies. Like, there's a lot of companies doing that and I probably do okay at it. Or I could go kind of the Carl Thompson, Alembic, maybe Federa, like more exotic wood, slightly more organic shapes, curvier kind of thing. But I've never really been, I appreciate all that, but I've never just really been drawn to those types of instruments. Yeah. So I just kind of sat down and figured, what are my favorite instruments? What kind of design am I drawn to? Mm-hmm. Most of it is still vintage stuff that most people are aware of, but maybe it's not the most common stuff you see. More guilds, old Epiphone, like Kalamazoo era Epiphone stuff.
Lots of Epiphone stuff there, yeah.
Obviously, there's a huge Rickenbacker influence to some of it. Mm-hmm. No. Just I can't say that. They'll call me up right after this. But,
well, Mr. Hall.
Yeah, so it's just kind of I've been a collector for a long time too. I've owned a lot of different basses, so I just kind of plucked little bits and pieces from all of my favorites throughout the years and tried to throw them together in a way where people would not be completely scared by them, or at the same time also wouldn't think that I was just copying some other classic design.
Well, I think that's a smart way to do it. I mean, because you're right. There's some really good builders that base their shapes and practically everything on traditional, well-established instruments. And I think it's important, if you're going to do something a little bit different, that it is somewhat familiar, or at least has some echo of a different
like
bass.
Lincoln guitars,
or guitar.
Like Lincoln guitars down in Austin. He does kind of the same concept, but he's the same concept.
No,
so whenever
you can't breathe, I think it's hilarious.
And you screw me up when you start laughing, so it sounds even worse. But no, I mean, when I first laid my eyes on these basses, I was like, oh wow, yeah, I see that brand. So I would totally, if I were a bass player, I would probably look into one of these and want to try them out. And as a matter of fact, I will probably see you next week.
All right.
At NAMM. It'll be my first time, but I'll be walking around. So, but I can't wait to try some of these out.
Yeah.
NAMM.
Just don't go to the NAMBLA convention instead.
So, I think one of the things that I'm really doing, right now we're kind of focusing on the aesthetic. We'll get into like some deeper stuff. We're not just going to sit here and ramble on about like, oh, it looks like this. But I think something that you've done very successfully, just from someone looking in on what your brand is about, is that you could see any one of these basses in almost any kind of style of music. instantly,
Yeah,
like
that's fair.
very, very easily. And that's not always the case. Like, you can't always say that about most musical instruments. I think that is part to your sort of borrowing of like these are the great things I like about certain known instruments, but then somehow managing to find a way to put your own fingerprint on a new style. I would consider this a new style, me, myself, and I. So anyway, that is hard to do when we're talking with other luthiers. Is like that's the biggest struggle. Is like how do I present something that people can instantly feel comfortable with, but also feel good enough to buy because it is worth it because it's there's something fresh about it. So. Well done.
Thank you. The genre thing wasn't really a conscious decision, because I get asked that a lot. Like, well, what kind of music are your basses good for? And I guess I don't really build for a specific type of music, and that's probably why. So people can just kind of, and there's enough different pickup combinations and things that do fit. I guess I don't have a lot of metal players necessarily, but I've got something new up my sleeve that might change that. So
I mean,
some BC Rich stuff.
I was just going to say that. Throw BC Rich in there.
The Black Midwestern that you have on your site, I would totally see that. I can see somebody in Macedon playing that easy.
Yeah, I
think
agree.
the only thing is maybe because it's a short scale. I don't know if you see a lot of short scales in metal. Usually it's extended scale, if anything. But
the good old EBOs.
We'll see.
EB3s.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so Zack didn't have anything to say, so we're going to keep moving. I snorted. Would you like to add anything to this?
I really like that Redmond Western. That's totally my sort of thing. If I was
because it's red, or you want to see a different color?
The pickguard shape?
It kind of reminds me of, like you said, an old Kalamazoo Epiphone, and I'm really into that stuff. So, like, I'm a guitar player. I'm not a bass player, but that is something that I would play if I was looking at a bass, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Well, you should be able to play it. It only has 4 strings, so it's...
Right.
Now,
and the strings are really big, too, so you can see them.
Yeah.
I think in the pillars of bass insults, there's maybe only 2 left.
Yeah.
Somehow we can do that.
That is a really cool-looking bass. Though, Zack.
No, that's... all of them are well done.
Yeah.
So anybody that's following along right now, by the way, if you go to serekbasses.com, if you're not driving, that will get you everything that we're seeing, and you can see all the things that we're seeing. But I want to talk about just real quick, how did you fall into this whole thing?
How far back do you want me to go?
As far as it's relevant, man.
All right, well, just going to go back to kind of my musical history first, because I still, at the end of the day, consider myself a bass player first. That's the reason I'm in this whole thing.
Lay it on us.
So, like every good bass player, I started off playing trumpet. I don't know if you guys are aware of this phenomenon, but it seems to be there are a lot of bass players out there who started off as trumpet players. Is anyone aware of this?
I'm not aware of that.
Well, I know. Didn't John Entwistle? He was a flugelhorn player.
Well, that figures.
Flea's another well-known one. I don't know. So I don't know if that's a thing.
I have no idea about Flea. Huh.
But anyway, I quickly learned that I'm way too much of an introvert to be a trumpet player. So somehow later on in high school, I ended up playing the bass and doing that whole thing. So let's see, played bass throughout high school and college, did a little touring after college. And actually, that's how I initially heard about you guys, was through Jeff Schroeder from the Smashing Pumpkins when he was on the show.
Cool.
Because our band that I was in after college did some touring with the Pumpkins. So was, and
that
Jeff,
doesn't hurt your lifestyle.
No, it was a lot of fun. And Jeff still lives in Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So gained a good friend there.
Super cool.
Jeff's a super cool dude. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Talk about someone who knows their effect pedals too. I mean, he's a wizard with that stuff. So
yeah, anybody that hasn't heard that episode, it is well worth listening to. You can go to our website to check that out. It might be might be difficult to find on iTunes because it only, for whatever reason, lists the last 25. But it was cool because all we talked about was gear. And a lot of people say, why don't you guys have more, known musicians on and stuff? It's not that, we're trying not to. It's just, we're talking about gear, and a lot of, that doesn't translate all the time, but he's a gear head, and that's all we talked about, and it was great.
Yeah. Yeah. He could go on and on.
Yeah.
So then after all of that, after college, I was back in Chicago looking for a job, and it was taking a long time. So in the meantime, I called up Dan Lakin over at Lakeland Basses, which was just a couple miles away from where I was living at the time.
Nice.
And asked him if I could just kind of come in a couple days a week and just kind of hang out, maybe sweep the floors and just observe. I just kind of
be a fly on the wall.
Yeah, totally. I've always been gear oriented. I was always modifying my basses and pulling frets out or changing pickups or doing this, Frankenstein instruments and things like that. So I knew I kind of had an interest in it. So Dan said, sure, come on in whenever you want. And when I got there, day one, Kevin Caton was the shop supervisor at the time. He said, you're not just going to sweep floors, like we're going to, throw you right in. You're going to be putting stuff together, wiring up pickups, all that good stuff. So I got a really nice education there over the next year and a half, 2 years or so. Kevin walked me through my first build from scratch, which was a Gibson Grabber style copy. And actually, he is now my shopmate at our wood shop. Kevin builds acoustic guitars. You can look him up, Caton Guitars.
Oh, cool. So how do you spell that?
Caton. Incredible luthier.
Caton.
Okay. Yeah. So he taught me, he kind of laid the foundation for me there at Lakeland. And I also got to see how a legitimate production, bass production company was run. So that was a lot of fun. And then after that, I moved over to the repair side of things, which I think is probably the most valuable thing. If any builder could get one sort of impromptu education, it would be go work at a repair shop for a couple of years, because the different problems you encounter, the amount of different instruments you get your hands on, there's so many different things. I think that's probably also where I started to put together a lot more of my aesthetic ideals, just seeing all these different guitars and seeing what sort of designs worked, what was, what good hardware was, what bad hardware was, good wiring, good fretwork, all that stuff. So that really kind of cinched it for me, and gave me like a really solid skill set. And while I was
just really quick while you were on that, we were mentioning Lincoln Guitars. When we interviewed them, like that was absolutely his story too. He started off at a stand-up bass shop and was just learning how to do repairs and stuff, and started to see how things are designed and everything. Like echoed the same sentiment. So,
right.
I love that you called out to anybody thinking about getting into this, because I know that there are a lot of people that listen that do have the idea of getting into that, and that's a great call out for that. So
yeah, and the repair game is a totally different thing too. It's like to be a really good repairman is different than being a good builder, but you kind of need to see things, like how things are reverse engineered in that way too. So so I was at Third Coast Guitar Repair for a few years, and in the meantime I was also working part-time installing kitchen cabinetry and doing finished carpentry and stuff like that. So I had access to a wood shop, and in my spare time I was building a few basses in my spare time, just for myself or for my friends. Nothing too crazy, just a couple a year. And eventually I just kind of got the idea that, hey, maybe I could turn this into something a little bit more. So I started slowly kind of building a collection of models that I wanted to try out. Got an Instagram account started, got a website up and running. And funnily enough, I actually had my website up and running with like professional pictures that my friend took of the first 3 basses that I ever built. And that's kind of what I hit the ground running with before I even had anything else. I just thought that if I had like a nice shiny website, people would think I was a legitimate business, So
Right.
that's how I kind of reached out to all of my suppliers like Hipshot and TV Jones and the people, hardware and pickup suppliers and stuff, and was like, hey, look, I'm building these basses. Do you guys, think you could hook me up with a builder discount and all that? Not knowing that I hadn't even sold a single instrument yet.
Oh, so, man. Do you still have number one that you built?
No, number one has been sold.
Oh.
I've got a few, prototypes that hang around in the closet, but yeah, the first Midwestern and the first Sacramento are in somebody else's hands. They're out there in the world.
Was the Midwestern the first one you did?
The Sacramento actually was. I built a short scale chambered body Sacramento, and the idea was to kind of build a Rickenbacker 660 style guitar in bass form, mixed a little bit with like the 4003 thing. So
right.
Yeah. So that was the first one, and then I had actually built sort of a Newport clone, an old Epiphone Newport, which is what the Midwestern's based off of before that, but it wasn't anything like the Midwestern was. It was really just strictly like the old Epiphone bass. Mm-hmm. And I guess the short scale thing is something that I'm becoming more known for. I think that's kind of I definitely get the most orders for short scale basses, and that was kind of just an accident by far. And I think it's just by chance that the first couple that I built were short scale. It wasn't even really something that I was conscious of. I'd always liked short scale basses, but it wasn't something I was obsessed with.
Are you sure you just didn't make a wrong measurement?
Right.
Damn, what am I going to do with this thing? It's 2 inches too short.
I guess I figured maybe it was just less wood, so if I screwed it up, it was, not a big deal. But yeah,
that's rad. I didn't know that the Midwestern was a short scale, and one of the guys in one of the bands I'm in is looking for a new bass, and I really want him to have a black Midwestern too.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to point him that way.
I think didn't Gibson design that to allow normal guitar players to easily play the bass?
It was student basses, right?
Well, I think a combination. Student, people with smaller hands, and also guitar players jumping on the bass.
Right.
That's really why the shorter scales started to come out.
Me like it. I like it.
Right, you don't fit any of that, Jared. It's silly.
Yeah, like for me,
you're twice the size of
a mandolin player.
You're twice the size of a normal human, and you play the smallest guitars. I don't understand. Anyways, cool. I'm just kind of curious because I don't know as much about what goes into building basses. Obviously, I know that there are some differences, but from your perspective, like when you started getting into this, walk us through like what the experience was and some of the challenges you faced to where you are now. Because right now they look amazing, and we saw you at the show, and so I had the privilege of actually seeing a couple, and then was just really impressed. So, from whence you came, what did you run into?
I think the two big challenges with bass are, first and foremost, neck stability, because there's a lot more tension on a bass neck. So figuring out how to just make a stable neck that's going to stay put and last a really long time. And my conclusion to that is actually pretty simple. It's just 2-piece quarter sawn with a good truss rod and a good fingerboard. There's not much else to it than that for me.
No graphite rods or anything. Just
no. I don't like an overly. Yep, I don't like an overly stiff neck. But I also don't carve my necks too thin. I'm not going like Geddy Lee jazz bass here, where it's just paper thin front to back. So there's a little bit more meat behind it too. So that's really important. And I also find that a little bit of extra thickness front to back on a bass neck affects the tone in a huge way too. It adds sustain. It tends to get rid of dead spots. It just makes the whole thing all around, a little bit more sturdy and solid in the low end too. So there was some trial and error with that, because I wanted to make necks really thin and comfortable, because a lot of bass necks, especially old vintage ones and vintage short scales in particular, have the old baseball bat neck where it's just like already behind the first fret, it's an inch thick, and it just gets thicker from there, which I think is kind of insane. But there's definitely kind of a sweet spot with that.
Cool. Are you using a dual action truss rod or?
Yeah, dual action.
Okay.
Yeah, I do use dual action.
No, okay, wait.
Yeah.
Describe dual action for everybody.
Dual action just means that you can adjust the relief forward or back. You can introduce back bow or forward bow if you wanted to. So I try and you'd never really want to add more relief. You're always kind of counteracting the tension, pulling the neck forward by bringing the neck back to straighten it out. But in some cases, it's nice to just have that extra, adjustment the other way in case something goes wrong over time.
Right.
And I actually try to build my necks with a little bit of extra, I should say a little bit of back bow to them. So that way, once the strings are on, it kind of pulls it straight and you don't need to use much of the truss rod right away. And then over time, the neck may shift a little bit, and that's when you can kind of start tightening it up.
Gotcha.
Yeah. The other big challenge is just kind of the ergonomics and the sort of fret access bit of it, I guess. If you look at a typical guitar, the bridge is kind of 3/4 of the way up into the body towards the neck already. But with a bass, you kind of have to pull that further towards the back of the body. And sometimes that means the neck is shifting into the body too, so it's harder, especially on some of those more symmetrical designs, to get upper fret access. So just playing with the right dimensions, getting the right balance. There's no neck dive. Also another thing you don't really have to worry about with guitars, but with basses, because you have a longer neck, if you don't get that upper horn into a specific spot when you're wearing it with a strap, it tends to dive to the floor, which nobody wants. It's going to wear on your left arm or throughout the gig and everything like that. So just finding the right dimensions to get the right balance and fret access, I guess, just took some playing around with, and it still does when I'm designing a new model. That's like the first thing I look at. So
excellent. How did you get to your? I noticed that on most of your models, you're using the I guess for lack of better terms, a soap bar bass pickup, commonly seen on like a Music Man style bass. I don't know if that's just because of the ones that you have on the homepage right now, or is that, talk about your pickups.
So the most common pickup I use a lot of Bisonic style pickups, which come from the old Guild basses. And I was introduced to those when I was at Lakeland. At the time, a guy named Fred Hammond was making a pickup called the Dark Star, which was an old recreation of the early Bisonics that were in Guild Starfire basses and some of the Guild JS series basses.
Weren't those originally, was that a Hagstrom pickup originally?
Hagstrom, too. Yeah, you're right. Hagstrom and then Guild used it a lot. So, right, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, those are cool pickups.
They are. Yeah, and there's been some different iterations of them throughout the years, and Fred Hammond's were a little bit different from the originals, and now Curtis has taken over where Fred left off, and he's making his own flavor of it too. And Guild has also reissued now their a version of it that they're using in their newer Starfires, which I use quite a bit too. It's a really great pickup. So it's a single coil, but it's really hot. It's a little bit more overwound. It's got lots of magnets because it's got rod magnets and it's got bar magnets underneath, so it's got a lot of output. It's a hot pickup, especially Curtis Novak's. Especially he has one that's like wound to, I think, somewhere around 12-13K, and it's just massive sounding. It's a really loud, bassy pickup.
Cool.
And I like those for the tone first and foremost, but I also think they just look really cool with all that chrome, chrome cover.
Yeah.
They've got adjustable pole pieces. Yeah, adjustable pole pieces and all that. And then the other manufacturer pickup that I offer are TV Jones. I use Thundertrons and Thunder Blades, which are humbucking pickups, but they still have a lot of clarity. They're sort of in line with maybe Rickenbacker high gains, with not quite as aggressive. And then I've recently introduced two of my own styles of pickup that I'm making hand winding here myself. One is the B90,
Where
is a
would
dog
we
ear.
find that? Just really quick, if we're kind of like looking around on your site right now.
They're listed on the website. If you go under basses, there should be a tab there that says pickups.
Bass pickups.
Yeah, bass pickups. That's right.
That sounds like a good place to go.
Yes. So there's the B90, which is a P90 made for bass. Thus the B. Real clever. I just think the dog ear pickup, the dog ear P90 looks so cool, especially with
it does.
the Midwestern, because the Midwestern is also a nod to the cornet guitar, which was just that single pickup, single P90 in the bridge position thing. And it just fits that design so well. So I thought, this cover's big enough. Why not just wind my own for bass? So I got the dimensions of the original P90 bobbin, started making my own. And it's a really interesting pickup because it's a shallow but wide bobbin. It's a single coil with 2 bar magnets. So you get kind of a P-bass tone, but because of the shape of the coil, it ends up being a little bit more low, mid, heavy. The highs are a little bit more tamed. It's just like a really fat sounding pickup, and it sounds really cool in those short scale basses in the middle position.
So do you wind these to the same spec as a P90? Is it basically the same structure and shape?
It's the same structure. I don't wind it to the same amount, or I don't even, you know what, I'm not even 100% sure that I use the exact same wire. I wind it specifically for bass. I experimented a lot getting the tone that I was after.
40 or 41 gauge?
I'm using 42 right
42?
now.
Yeah, it's the same as a P90.
Okay,
yeah.
So 42, and I'm winding them right around.
Oh, you don't have to give up anything you don't want to.
It's not a secret. It's no secret. It's no secret. They're right around like 8 to 9K.
Yeah, that's just a normal. Yeah, that's an everyday P90. Yeah.
Well, there you go. I didn't know that, but it sounds. Yeah, I was winding specifically just for the tone that I was after on the bass, so I guess that works out. But
cool.
Do you ever mix and match them? I notice you have the single. You're doing a single pickup now. Do you ever do the single with the? So let's see. What is in the Midwestern? Which is that the? That's the big. I don't know what else to call it. The big fat pickup.
The Midwestern,
like an EBO shaped.
That's right. That's just a bisonic without the thing, or without the surround, isn't it?
That's just the Midwestern typically comes with the bisonic pickup. That's kind of the stock setup there.
So if someone was building, if I said, "Hey, I'd like a black Midwestern, but I'd like you to put a single in the neck and a bisonic in the bridge," is that something you would do?
Totally. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do is mess around with different pickup combinations. I just made a Midwestern 2. A customer ordered a Novak bisonic in the neck position.
No relation, by the way. Just to make that clear to everybody.
At least
and one of my
we know about.
And a B90 in the neck, or the bridge position. And that was
that's
really cool. Combo.
Yeah, that would make more sense to me.
Well, I'm just pulling stuff out. I'm not,
What do you think about putting, say?
Anyways,
yes,
peanut gallery. Excellent. Are you using wood? I know wood is a huge topic in guitar, especially today. I mean, it always has been, but right now it's a real hot topic, especially when it comes to necks. So tell us a little bit about that.
All right. Well, I really stick to 3 types of wood. I really mostly use mahogany, African mahogany technically, maple, and walnut. Those are my 3 go-tos. And unless a customer requests something else, that's what I stick to. I'm not the type of person who really puts a lot of stock into the tonal differences of different species of woods. I'm more concerned with the final weight and sort of overall density. To my ears, that's what's made the difference in tone most apparent. I really, because I've built some of the same instruments just with different types of wood, or different weights rather, of the same type of wood, different weight, and they sound completely different. So it's not the type of wood, it's just the final weight. If you have a really heavy piece of mahogany, it's going to sound different than a really light piece of mahogany. It's still mahogany. So I don't put a lot of stock into the subtleties, especially maybe that's more of a bass thing too. I mean, the amount of detail and clarity isn't quite as intense as it would be on a guitar in that top end. And maybe that's where a lot of people are hearing all of these differences. I don't know. But for me, it's a weight thing. And I keep every instrument, I try and keep under 9 pounds. I'm all about lighter weight instruments.
So do you typically chamber them or just go for the lighter pieces of wood?
Just go for the lighter pieces of wood, really. The Sacramento is the only bass that I offer a chambered version of, and that's more just kind of an aesthetic choice, and it does affect the sound a little bit there, being that it's lighter and slightly hollowed out. So, yeah.
Cool, man.
That's kind of where I'm at with that. Yeah.
So you've got your 4. You got. I counted right. I was just trying to make sure. I'm like, it is 4, right? You have your 4 models. Are you kind of holding there, or you got new models that you're working on, or?
There's a 5th on the way, and I could probably talk about it now because it's close enough to the NAMM show.
Cool.
When we'll release it. It's for the last couple of years or so, Mark over at Chicago Music Exchange down in the basement, and I have been rolling an idea around, and I finally decided to go for it. And so we're going to be introducing a Chicago Music Exchange exclusive model for 2018 called the Lincoln, which is the street that CME is on. No surprise there. Mm-hmm. And it's a full-scale bolt-on bass that is a nod to the Gibson Grabber / Rickenbacker.
Ooh.
I'll leave it at that. I've posted a couple of teaser pictures up on Instagram. You'll see the full thing soon enough, but basically think those 2 basses and just throw them together.
I'm going to ask you a pickup question about that. So are you going to fill the pickups up with the black resin like the Gibson Grabber pickups were?
It's not going to, no.
Because, I've rebuilt those. Ugh.
Yeah. But, no, for now, I'm just going to continue to use the pickups that I've been using. So mostly it'll come stock with just a single bisonic pickup in the middle position.
They're probably much better than the Grabbers.
Yeah. Some of the G3 had, some iterations of that were okay. And the Ripper pickups can be okay if they didn't screw with the wiring so much with all the filters and weird phasing and stuff. But yeah.
I think that was like the Bill Lawrence era.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, experimental.
Yeah.
Very cool, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was going to say all of that.
Right.
I think you should just put the black goo in just for the heck of it.
Black resin.
Guitar backs. You'll never know how they're made.
Excellent. Hey, just a real quick question. When you were, obviously you have a nod to certain builders and stuff, but is there any builder that you would like to present your basses to and just be like, this is my work? It's sort of like
Dead or Alive.
You inspired in just showing your works as a like, tell me what you think about my stuff.
Interesting.
Dead or Alive, yeah.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is honestly Alembic, and there's really not a whole lot of Alembic influence to my basses, but I've always just really respected what they do, especially in terms of just the electronics and being really forward thinking there. And I think the aesthetic is just really great on a lot of their instruments, and it's just something that I wouldn't really even think about trying to mess with too much because it's such an iconic thing. So that might be, I might go there just to ask them what kind of mojo they thought that these things had.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm always curious to hear that from especially guitar builders. Pedal builders is I don't really ask that too much of them, but I think so much thought and effort and work and trial and error goes into an actual guitar build that surely there's got to be somebody that you'd be like, see what I did.
There's actually one quick one. Another up-and-coming builder who you guys have had on the show sort of recently, John Parsons.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Him and I are actually in the middle of a trade right now where we're building each other a bass, and we're just going to do a straight-up swap.
Really?
I believe he mentioned that on when he was on. You guys have been at this for a little while, yes?
Yeah, I think it might have been just after he was on the show. But so he's going to build me a little short scale in the style of his Orelli, and I'm building him a Midwestern. So that'll be a fun little thing.
I can see where your two aesthetics sort of are not. I was going to say are not dissimilar. And instead, I could just say are similar.
Double
Yeah.
Nice.
I could totally see those hanging together like on next to each other.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
So it'll be fun to see when he gets his, if he's like, oh, this is not at all what I thought it was. It's total crap, man. We'll see. I'm sure his stuff, his work looks really, I mean.
Both of you are going to probably do your best work, you know.
Yeah, got to try to impress each other.
I know.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So you're on your way to NAMM. Is there anything that you are especially excited to check out, or anybody that you're especially excited to meet up with that maybe you haven't gotten the opportunity before?
Don't say Gibson.
There are. Yeah. I'm just hoping that a few of my bass idols might roll through. I haven't really been too forward about like setting up too many appointments or things like that. I'm kind of just going to be hanging around and seeing who rolls by, and hopefully the Reverb booth gets a good amount of traffic, and I think it'll keep me busy enough for the 4 days that I'm there.
Oh yeah, well the fun part of the NAMM show is playing Rockstar or Not. And just right, because of course all the knots usually bring in what would we call them?
Be careful here.
I'm trying to use escorts.
Oh,
they bring along escorts to walk the floor.
You mean like parents?
The knots?
Well, some of them look like parents, but more scantily clad, shall we say.
Some of them are definitely
and generally speaking, the real rock stars don't have the escorts.
Interesting.
I'm looking forward to meeting people that I know that I've never met in person.
Yeah,
and there's
that too.
That's the beautiful part of the show.
Yeah. I am lamenting that I have been given a couple opportunities to go to this one, and because of things happening in real life, it is not a wise idea for me to go.
Wish you were going, my man.
I would love to say hello to so many people that we've talked to on the show, and meet up with you as well, Jake. So
we'll definitely plan for Nashville.
Yeah, we're going.
I can't wait.
Wait, Zach has something to say.
I do.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
He got you, man.
Okay, well, let's...
Zach, you want to go? You want to go with us to Nashville? NAMM?
Sure, that sounds like fun.
Yeah. I don't know where... we're going to NAMM, so I don't know what you guys are doing. But anyway,
NAMM.
All right. So, Jake, we're gonna leave your interview right there on a semi-high note before we ruin it. But we do have a couple more things that we got to do.
Yeah, like would you rather?
Very nice, Jared.
This week's Would You Rather.
Okay, just go for it.
He's jumping in. Boom.
I'm doing this here.
His hands are up.
Carpe diem.
With the thumb and the index together. Okay, you're on stage. Would you rather have a split rig where it is not stereo, non-stereo? You have a left and a right speaker. Or would you rather have a true stereo rig? It's one or the other. Would you rather?
How many cabinets?
No, 2 cabinets. A left and a right.
I mean, but how many speakers are in those cabinets?
Oh,
jeez. It's a dual twin. That's
3.5.
Dual twin cab
with a horn.
What if you're a bass player?
Horn.
A horn? Oh my God!
Who uses horns?
Jerry Garcia.
Custom. Hey, the custom brand had horns.
Yeah. So, anyways,
sorry, but they did, and sparkle.
Yeah.
I love sparkle.
Yeah. All right. So let's back to the question at hand. We might have to say that.
So
really
what are
quick.
we doing again?
Not really. Are you going to run mono on stage, or are you going to run true stereo?
Okay, so I have my rig, and instead of just having my single cabinet, for the sake of people in the audience and maybe even the band, depending on where you're playing,
right?
I put one on the left side of the stage, one on the right side of the stage. I'm totally actually planning on doing this in real life, by the way.
Yeah.
So
I've done it. It's awesome.
Let's go, Zach.
I'd have to go mono just because I'm not a big like effects user. Like typically, I just plug straight into the amp. So I don't think I would get a whole lot
Thank
of
you,
use
Joe
out of
Bonamassa.
Ouch. You're not a Bonamassa guy, man.
Yeah,
right?
but I just don't think I would get much use out of the stereo thing.
Yeah.
Weird.
Tony?
I've done both, and I mean, if you have the proper effects pedals, the stereo effect is great. But from a practical matter, I think dual mono is the way to go.
Understood. Jake?
Again, being a Chris Squire fan, stereo all the way.
Amen.
The Rickenbacker was my first true bass, and it's got that stereo output jack. And why not?
right.
Why not use it? I like
that.
the idea of splitting those pickups up, and one can be dirty, one can be clean, or the stereo chorus thing is just so much more trippy. It's great.
I can see this. I can hear the stereo chorus.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yes.
Jared?
Stereo all the way, you know it, baby. The last band I was in, I ran True Stereo, and they actually mic'd both speakers on both sides of the stage and ran them left and right. So the sound reinforcement also was in stereo, in sync with my rig.
Jeez Louise.
That's
It
pretty
was unbelievably...
Did we have a quad option?
I was the only guitar player, so
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I think it helped. Nothing like
Jake,
it.
for your edification, in Jared's basement, if you can,
I do it in my basement.
Yeah, he has two orange
80-30s.
stereo rigs
Yeah.
in the space of about maybe 10 by 10.
Yeah,
it is hilarious.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Michael J. Fox thing.
Yeah,
It does
It's
sound pretty
lasted
cool
back.
though. He's got an
It
old.
does, man.
Yeah.
You got to
old
stand in the
stereo
right
chorus.
place, but if you do, it's heaven. If you don't, it's
When you're
weird.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Seriously.
yeah.
What about you, Todd? What do you think?
I'm going mono. I just split it for the because I do smaller clubs, and I think you can run the stuff through the PA, but if you are close to the stage, you're hearing the PA and what's coming off the stage.
True.
And I like the idea of, too many times I see a band and they've got, the guitar player's all the way on the left and the bass player's all the way on the right. Well, if you're on the right side of stage, you are hearing a biased sound,
Right.
Despite whatever the PA is doing. Because chances are, if you're close enough to the stage, the PA is probably like right over your head, maybe even a little bit behind you. So I like the idea of trying to present as true a sound as possible for like wherever you're at around the stage.
Back center.
So there's there.
That's where you want to be. Back
I
center.
mean, no. At a live show, we just watch it on TV, man. Back center. What are you talking about?
No,
gotta
if
be
you're in a
right
live
up
show,
front
you want to
there,
be.
dude.
Yeah, you want to
right up
be. You
front.
want to be on the floor and then back some, so you hear what it's supposed to sound like through the PA.
Be right up front. Right up front.
Well, I've been at
with
both.
the sweat and the blood and the elbows, man. Anyways,
Isn't that a name of a band?
it
Blood,
should
Sweat,
be
and Elbows?
Blood, sweat, and elbows.
Yeah. You're bringing
Yeah.
me to tears. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, that's terrible. Okay. Hey, I just want to say a few things. We gotta pull this donkey into the stall. So, Tony.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. I believe you have a thing or two.
Well, in lieu of my normal Patreon speech,
You've been graduated. We graduated you.
now
Yes.
I do the ending speech where I get to acknowledge all of our executive producers. And one of the benefits, I do believe, Jared, is what?
Well, if you're
If you're an executive producer,
right, if you pay at that level, then you get your name written on the thing.
written on the thing,
You change
Well,
it
you-
every time.
Well,
Is
you
it-
get your
or
name
is it
set on the
red?
thing. You get your name read on the thing. Yeah.
Okay, so that's exactly what I would like to do.
Yeah.
So,
Leave the names on the thing.
Oh my gosh.
So we would like to thank all of our executive producers for their support of our podcast.
Zach has to go to the bathroom, so make this quick.
Oh,
Patreon.
Okay.
No,
we'll let Zach do it next
Go ahead.
time. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to just read some of these names off.
Just read them.
And we'll just...
Gosh.
I love making him antsy.
Pizza time.
So you know what? I'm going to go in reverse order. Because I like to mix things up a little bit. So we had a newcomer last week. His name was Chris Kearney.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Once again. We'd also like to thank Mason Green, Sean S. That's just with a single S. Oliver Gonzalez, John Daly, not the golfer, Robin Smith, Derek Fitzer, Pete Marshall, not the amp maker, Carlos Mancha, Matt Brammer, David Wolfson, Martin Cliff, and nearest and dearest to our heart, Mr. Tom Barazin. Thank you, Tom.
Yes, sir. So if you dig what we are doing here at the Guitar Knobs, you can show us by becoming a patron at patreon.com. And I know that's your old spiel, isn't it?
Patreon.com/
/
yeah,
the Guitar Knobs.
/ the Guitar Knobs.
And we really would, anything that you can help out with, go to the Patreon site, see if there's something you're comfortable with there. There's some great prizes that you get for becoming
not prizes. It's not
they're goodies.
They're incentives.
Yeah.
I like calling them because they are prizes. It's something special.
Anyways, thank you, Tony. Yeah. Hey, I also want to remind you that at reverb.com, you will find a marketplace just for musicians all over the world. You can buy, sell, make offers, and negotiate with complete protection. Whether you're selling from home or if music gear is your day job, there are millions of listings all online already, and it's free to list yours too. So join the musicians marketplace at reverb.com.
It's awesome.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Hey, Jake, you have been awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad we finally got to do this.
Absolutely.
And thanks for putting up with the nonsense, too.
Yeah.
No worries.
It was a dance worth having.
Yep.
Jake, where can they find your stuff?
SerekBasses.com. That's SEREK. And Instagram is probably where I keep everything most up to date.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
Boy,
Yes.
if Instagram ever
thanks
goes
for
down.
following me, by the way. I saw you jumped on board the other day.
Oh, yeah. Love it. Love your work.
And Tony?
I have nothing to say.
Oh, brother.
If you really want to find me,
Yeah.
go to pickguardian.com.
Okay.
You can also you can visit my various social media channels, including Instagram, which seems to be
everybody
most
knows
popular.
what all the channels are, so
Channel they do. So
Yeah.
they don't know what Facebook is.
Come on,
Yeah,
man. You
anyways.
make really good stuff. Tell them where you're
I
at.
make good stuff and I get my
make
name
good
right
stuff.
on the thing.
If you were at all curious about doing some kind of special thing to your guitar as easy as doing a pick guard, please
as
give.
easy as doing a pick guard.
Well, from an owner's standpoint, that's an easy
Wow.
way into customization. Oh my gosh, you're off the rails tonight, Jared. Go.
Okay. If you guys want some new pickups or need any pickup repairs, go to BrandonWoundPickups.com. You'll find my email there. Jared@BrandonWoundPickups.com. JARED.
If they can find it there, why are you saying it?
Well, I don't
anyways.
know. And
Zach?
I am on Instagram and Twitter, but more on Instagram and mostly on Facebook.
He said moron, not us.
Moron.
Zach, thanks a lot.
Thanks for coming, Zach.
Todd, where can we find you, Todd?
Zach
You can
has
find me right here. I'm out. Subscribe.
Yeah.
And away we go. All right, there's me. Let's get you just get mic levels real quick.
Check. Sound good?
I mean, yeah, for a schoolgirl, that's great. You step up to bat, son. All right.
I keep on pitching them, and you ain't a catching them, boy.
Okay, we got to turn Tony down.
No, I'll give you my normal.
All right.
Normal.
Jared, you got some voice.
No.
Check here.
Mike,
I'm
can you do it
talking.
again real quick? Give me something loud.
Loud.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.